Hey everybody, Jason here. So today we're going to lay up the fiberglass cloth on the underside of the deck of the Shearwater 17 Kayak. So let's get started. So we've been through the process of fiberglassing when we glassed the hull, but there are a few points that I'd like to review again. Lay out your fiberglass starting at one end and then spread it out to the other. Once you have the fiberglass cloth laid out on the deck, you can pull it over so that you don't waste the material. Take all the time you need to smooth the glass on the underside of the deck. It should hug the deck like a skin without a wrinkle or a bubble to be found. Once you have the fiberglass cloth laid out on the deck so it's a good fit, use a pair of sharp scissors to trim off the excess. When you trim the cloth, you want to leave an inch or two overhang on both sides. We'll cut that away once the epoxy is cured, but for now, the extra weight of the cloth around the edges will actually help hold the cloth down. Lift up your tail end of the cloth and place it on the deck behind you so that it doesn't drag on the floor and collect dust and dirt. That way you'll be able to use it again in the future. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just laying out the excess fiberglass cloth. It's just the offcut, and I'm just gonna trim off a little piece here so that I can have two layers of cloth right behind the cockpit opening. So this is the area that we're likely gonna be sitting on as we enter and exit the kayak. So I just wanna make sure that this section is just nice and strong. Okay, so if you're just joining us now in the series, I highly recommend you check out some of our other videos from earlier on about the fiberglass and epoxy process. You can also check out some of my other videos that I have on cedar strip canoe building. The process is relatively simple. I'll point out a couple points right now, but yeah, if you could check out some of the earlier videos, that would be great. So the one thing, when I go to apply the epoxy to the fiberglass, I've trimmed my bristle brush, trimmed the length of the hairs so that they're about half the length, and that's just so that they basically don't hold as much epoxy, and the brush is used more to push the epoxy along instead of absorbing it and painting it on. I've just found you have better control, and then also there is less waste at the end of the day. The other thing is just make sure when you're using your epoxy pumps that you get the calibration right. So with this mass system epoxy, it's 1 pump of resin to 1 pump of hardener, and they're already pre-calibrated, so You just have to make sure you get a full pump each time. One thing that I do once in a while is if it looks like the pump is drawing a little bit slow back, I'll just just give it a little bit of a tug upwards to make sure it's all the way up before I press it again. I also do 1 and then 1 and then 2 and then 2. So the calibration, the measurement of your epoxy is really vitally important in this process. So yeah, you just want to make sure you get that right. And the other thing is just make sure that you stir up your epoxy in your measuring cup. Stir it up good for a good 2 to 3 minutes. Now, Mass System Epoxy, they've got a lot of good information on their website, a good facts page. So yeah, I'll put the link to that in the description of the video. So if you just read the description, you'll find that link. And yeah, check it out. There's issues, temperature of the room and cure time and stuff like that. They've got all the information on their website, so you might want to check that out as you go along. Okay, so this is almost mixed up. So what I've done here is I've done 4 pumps of each resin to hardener, and that's pretty much what I usually do. Sometimes I'll do 2 pumps or 3 pumps, but usually it's around 4, and that gives me, I don't know, it's probably 1 to 2 tablespoons worth of epoxy to start off with. The thing is with epoxy is if I was to do my full cup or half a cup and mix it up, I've got to mix it a lot more to make sure that I've got it all mixed up and that it's gonna kick off properly. So I'd be mixing it for a lot longer. Now the thing is with that is that epoxy also will kick off. That means that it'll start to cure when it's thicker. So when I have a cup full of epoxy, it'll start to warm up in my hand and it'll start to glob up and kick off in there. So having smaller batches is always safer. Okay, so yeah, let's start applying this. Now when applying the epoxy to the cloth, just pick one end and then start in the center and work your way out. The cloth is likely going to stretch and pull a little as you go, so just keep checking the edges and make sure that the cloth stays where you want it to. Despite being the underside of the deck, it's always great when you start laying up the fiberglass and epoxy and start to see what the color will be like when you have a finished boat. Okay, so I finished off doing the fiberglass and epoxy on the underside of the deck. Now, while that cures, I'm going to take a moment and just remove all the forms from inside the hull of the kayak, and then that way once this is cured, I'll be ready to go. Okay, so to get the kayak ready for putting the deck on, I need to get rid of this plastic along the shear clamp, remove all of the station forms, and then also lift out the plastic that's laying on the bottom of the hull. So the plastic has done a pretty good job. As you can see, there are a few glue drops, but the plastic has caught the glue. So it's going to save me some time and I won't have to clean up some of this mess. To remove the forms from inside the kayak, all I'm going to do is just use a rubber mallet and just give them a slight tap on the sides. I'm also going to need to remove any of the staples that I've used to hold down any of this plastic. Alright, so I've got the hull all cleaned up and ready to assemble the deck to it. All we need to do now is just wait for the epoxy to cure overnight, and then tomorrow we'll assemble the two pieces. Hopefully you're enjoying the series so far. If you are, please give the video the thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. Also, if you have any questions or comments, leave a comment. Alright, thanks for watching.